we're taking it as if it's normal. It's normal. Oh, you're on an SSRI. It's normal. Oh, you're on TCA. Oh, it's normal. Oh, you're on anxiolytic medication. It's normal. You're completely out of control metabolically. Well, that's normal. That's like how it goes. No, that's not how it goes. This is not acceptable approach for human longevity and as a lifespan, what will happen over the lifespan. This is not acceptable to just sit back and to say that, well, it's normal. I don't believe that it is. Dave, yourself, I know you probably see Bart K. He's someone who really likes to harp on this point. But the point is, I believe, accurate. You cannot use cause and effect statements when you do not have any type of experiment or evidence that is causal. And this is a big problem because we are taking associative data and applying it as if it was causal. And this is happening in journals all over the world, in associations all over the world. Yet all of the recommendations and all of the general ideas that are brought on about diet have led us to where we currently are. But I said, I'm going to do straight carnivore. I will include things like dairy. I will completely avoid alcohol. And I said, we'll do it for 1 year. We'll see what happens. And it was insane. I mean, what happened just within the first 6 weeks is unbelievable.
Eric, how did you find carnivore?
Yeah, what a good open-ended question. So it's a little bit of a story, just like the rest of your interviews that people watch. There's hundreds of them. You're a content uploading machine. So pretty much someone close to me was going through an experience with keto, and then they were going on into carnivore. And the results that they had were legitimately unbelievable. I mean, they made zero sense. When you think about human nutrition, when you think about biochemistry, when you think about physiology, from a traditional sense, it makes zero sense what this person was telling me. And I had seen that person's transformation with my own 2 eyes, and I still didn't believe it. I mean, it took probably a year for me to even consider that that was an acceptable idea. And throughout my entire 20s, I was obese. There were periods of time where I had lost weight, but they were short-lived. I mean, we're talking maybe 6 months that it would last. Okay, 8 months, 9 months. We're not talking about a long time. And so I was 28 when this person had their experience, and 29, was coming pretty quick. And I was enjoying life outside after I had finished my residency. And 30 years old was coming up. And I thought, maybe when I turn 30, I should make a little bit of a change. And right before I turned 30, I went on an international trip with a group of young professionals, and really enjoyed that experience. I mean, a lot of the whole thing. You're going to go out, travel internationally. It was great. And I said, the moment I land on U.S. soil, when I come home, which I was actually landing on my birthday. So I said, I'm turning 30 and the game is over. We're going to try something new, and I'm going to do it for a year. I will do it for 1 year, and after that, I'll make changes. But for 1 year, I'm going to do this super weird thing that I've never done before, and let's give it a shot. My expectations were very different than what reality was. I did not expect to have such good results as the other person. Number one, the other person was metabolically completely unhealthy, horrible cardiovascular history. I mean, at the time was 30 years old and obese. I didn't have any diagnoses. I didn't have autoimmune conditions. I didn't have this, long journey through many different diets and things along those lines. I was adolescence. I played sports. I ate standard American diet. I just did the normal stuff. And as I got older, I ate just terrible foods, became obese. And that was really it. Other than being overweight and then obese and yo-yo dieting, I didn't have special dietary protocol. It was always food restriction, but always eating the same things. Here and there, maybe restriction of alcohol or something like that, but nothing very specific. So I said, I will try this specific dietary protocol, which of course you're eliminating anything that is not an animal product. And then there are people that are even doing things like lion diet and being more strict. But I said, I'm going to do straight carnivore. I will include things like dairy. I will completely avoid alcohol. And I said, we'll do it for 1 year. We'll see what happens. And it was insane. I mean, the what happened just within the first 6 weeks is unbelievable. Part of the way that I went about it when I first started was that I didn't want any of those cravings, sugar, all of that type of stuff. So my goal was to really feel full all of the time. The issue was that when you're eating this way, you get full pretty quickly, especially at the beginning, and you're full for a long period of time. That's one thing that you never think about. You know, before you're eating 3, 4, 5, 6 times, snacking, all of this stuff. When I first started, I couldn't even think about food for the rest of the day. So without anyone instructing me, without any special interviews or without any special literature review on intermittent fasting, I was already doing 1 meal a day. And sometimes that span of time would even become larger. It might even go 36 hours, 40 hours. The whole idea was you need to feel full. You need to enjoy the meals. So every time I ate, it was incredible how much I enjoy to eat. You know, before it's kind of like, oh, I'm super hungry. Let me go get a quick bite at whatever fast food chain you want to pick, quick dopamine hit or something like that. And then you're just on to the next. You know, so it wasn't really satiety that I was getting before. Now to really feel satiated was very different. I mean, it was a huge change. And I know you can attest to that. I've seen other videos where you talk about satiety, where there was one video that you had done where someone was questioning the ability for you to feel satiated for an extended period of time, some vegan online. And it's just to say that the idea of feeling satiated for an extended period of time, even longer than 16 hours, 18 hours, 24 hours, is so foreign of a concept. It's so unusual. And that was a big change for me. So there were days where I did eat twice. I have never, since I started this protocol, I have never eaten 3 times in a day. I just don't think that it's actually possible for me. The quantities of food that I eat are very, very big. And it's pretty much been 1 meal a day since then. Again, there are some days where it's 2, but the second meal is mostly just some snacking or something. It's not really a meal in that sense. So what ended up happening in those first 6 weeks, the first 6 weeks, I lost about 40 pounds, which is a large quantity of weight to lose in 6 weeks. And the other thing was that I did absolutely zero exercise. The point of the first 3 to 6 months, my initial goal, the first 3 to 6 months, was to have a clear understanding of diet and a clear understanding of control. And to understand that I need to have a clear, good relationship with the food that I'm eating and not base it all on that I'm running 6 miles or something crazy like that. So in 6 weeks, I hadn't seen the friends that I had seen on that trip. And 6 weeks later, I come to hang out with them and they were shocked. What happened to you? What have you been doing? How much are you exercising? What gym do you go to? What's your gym routine? Guys, I don't go to the gym. Oh, what? You eat less? I was a little bit unsure of even how to approach that question, you know. And someone said, so what's your macro count? Don't count macros. How much do you eat? I eat as much as I can until I'm full. Oh, and how many times a day do you eat? I don't know. I just eat when I'm hungry. That's it. So the whole idea was feel satiated and you won't get any of the other issues like cravings and things along those lines. The weirdest thing was that I didn't even have cravings. So that all of that preemptive thought process was really kind of a waste. But in reality, I kept it very intuitive. And I had other people around me that had, after an extended period of time, even my brother took this type of approach. But you see, despite the fact that he also does carnivore only since August, so he's not even a full year, his weight reduction is way bigger than mine. So in the first 6 weeks, I lost 40 pounds. Okay. 6 weeks after that, I lost about another 25 pounds. And so after the first 12 weeks, that's when I started to do exercise. But I don't do as much as people would think. I do currently 2 strength training workouts a week. I started with 1, let it go for a month. Then I did 2 days a week. And then there was a 3 or 4 month period that I did 3 days a week. And the changes were really crazy because I went from, before starting Carnivore, 195 pounds, 12 weeks in to being 130 pounds, and 6 months after that to being 140 pounds. The change in terms of muscle mass was insane. I mean, it was really unbelievable. I could see photos from before and after, and just a very large change. And my weight is pretty much the same, around 140, 142 pounds. Yet my strength, although the rate of change from the first 3 to 6 months to now is much slower, but I'm still progressing in terms of strength training, and I'm only training twice a week. I don't train for super long periods of time. It's maximum an hour. I do try hard though, so I think intensity is important. But when I had mentioned my brother, the main point I wanted to bring out there was to say that his weight reduction is much larger than mine. He lost 74 pounds. He's skinnier than I am. He does not do as much physical activity, even though mine is only twice a week. But the thing is that what he eats on a day-to-day basis is pretty different than what I eat. So he'll have some prosciutto, he'll have some New York strip. I like a ribeye, some ground beef sometimes, some eggs, a little bit of cheese here and there. My brother doesn't handle cheese well at all. There are people that don't do well with very specific ingredients. And so that's important to note, that even if you are considering these types of dietary changes, there are going to be differences. What you think at the beginning is not what's going to happen in 6 months. I thought after 1 year, I would go back to drinking alcohol, maybe on occasion. I would maybe add certain things back. 1 year came around and I said, why would I change? I feel so good.
Yeah, you really, it really turns you off all those vices that you would have had before, right?
Absolutely. And again, even things like cravings, even things like, oh, let me have a piece of chocolate cake, those thoughts don't even enter into your head. You enjoy that process on a day-to-day basis, that it's just has nothing to do with the way that you live anymore. Those things don't really even exist. There was a guy at the gym that I had met a couple of times, tall guy, in amazing shape, very strong, natural. He was not enhanced. And he had asked me about my diet, because he said, look, I see you coming for only 3 months, but it looks like your shoulders got huge, which you can't tell under this coat here, but that doesn't matter. So, and I told him the way that I'm eating this and that. He said, so you never have chocolate cake, nothing like that? I said, no. He said, my dad, he showed me a picture of his dad. He said, my dad always said that those are dog treats, that he doesn't eat dog treats. I said, smart guy. Why would he eat this? It's completely unacceptable. There's no reason to eat those things. But it's really tough to think that we are able to just use willpower to obtain the success in terms of dietary status. And the fact is, I don't believe it has anything to do with willpower. I don't think that over the long term, you can outrun your hormones. And we see this on a daily basis. Dave, you know this in terms of obesity, diabetes, incidence, prevalence, all of those things. We look at people and we say, you know what, just eat one less, whatever, calorie counting. Just do a little bit less, a little bit more calorie counting, just reduce by 100 grams of this carbohydrate or of that saturated fat, or it doesn't matter what. You hope and talk to patients, and you're talking to people on a daily basis and saying, use willpower. And this is completely unacceptable. Willpower, you will lose in the long term every single time. And that was the biggest benefit that I ever got. There's no willpower here. You can't eat more when you're full. When you're satiated and you feel good, you have zero desire and you're completely full. I know that you've had it happen where you feel like it's been 12 hours, but it actually feels like you've just ate maybe an hour ago because you've had a large meal. And it's crazy to think.
I think this is a really good point. And I've never kind of heard it said this way, but I really like the way you just said that. That you can't fight against your hormones. It's not willpower. And
No,
that's 100% right, because you're trying to willpower your way out of giving your body nutrition. And so your body's just fighting against you, right?
it's going to fight against you and it will win. It will win. The majority of the patients that undergo long-term therapy for obesity with these new Ozempic and all the GLP-1, it doesn't matter whether that's any type of bariatric surgery procedure. I mean, the statistics on bariatric surgery is terrible, you know, and you've had a physical procedure done that it should help to limit hormone regulation, right? Because you physically have a much smaller stomach. Your stretch receptors should be going off very quickly. But what happens to the majority of those patients? The majority of the patients fail. And whether it's that they fail to adhere according to their willpower or whether medical society is failing them, it's a little bit separate of a question. But the general idea is that patients who are obese, everyone that we're talking about, not patients, but people that are obese, have metabolic issues, their hormone control, ghrelin and leptin control is completely out of whack. Yet you have the expectation that just by being strong-willed, they will win over the long term. This is unacceptable. This doesn't make any sense. And that's what I think a lot of the benefit comes for when we talk about carnivore, when we talk about keto, feeling full, enjoying and understanding what satiety actually is. When we talk about food portions, I don't know about for you because I think you've been carnivore a tad longer than I have been. My portions have changed radically and they're not stagnant. They're not the same on a day-to-day basis. I keep things very simple. I eat until I'm full. On Sunday, that was actually, believe it or not, just a little bit of salmon, a little bit of bacon, and maybe half a pound of beef. That's nothing. That's really nothing. That lasted me 36 hours. But some days I'll eat 2.5 pounds worth of ribeye. So it's such a radical shift. You eat until you're full. Simple. You're full, you stop. When exactly are you full? There are a lot of kind of little itty bitty pieces of information that your body is giving you. I know Dr. Chaffee online will talk about the change in taste when he's eating. He'll have a change in taste to where things taste a little bit more bland, and he'll just kind of stop there. I've had that. It was the weirdest. I do have that, and it's the weirdest experience when you first have it because it doesn't really make sense, and taste receptors don't really work in that way. I mean, it just doesn't make logical sense, but it does happen. Or out of nowhere, you'll just get a sense, I feel pretty good right now. I don't think I need to eat anymore, and you'll just stop. That never happened before. Before, you're always over-ordering, overeating, and throwing so much food out from your fridge. Complete waste.
It was never a question of, oh, I'm probably full right now or I'm satiated right now. It was always what's next.
Exactly. Look, there's always I love when I'm out with friends, or and this is even before. It was always surprising to me before I even started carnivore. We have a big meal, we're all laughing, drinking, talking, enjoying. At some point, one or two people in the meal, oh, I can't move. Let me unbutton a button, something like that. And then the waiter or waitress comes, gives you the check. Any dessert? Oh, there's always room for dessert. Always. There's always room for dessert. It's unusual. And that was even my saying when I was going out with friends, even as carnivore. We were finishing a meal. I'm the only one eating carnivore, obviously. And they finish a meal and they say, oh, I'm so full. And I would just reply, yeah, but there's still some room for dessert, isn't there? It just kind of became this thing that my friends and I would say back and forth with each other. Like, why would you need this if you've eaten properly, you've eaten enough, you have good nutrition, there is no more extra food shortly after you've finished your meal. Your meal is done and you really won't need to eat for an extended period of time. Look, some people have different protocols. They want to eat 2-3 times a day. They want to fuel their workouts, whatever it might be. There's no issue with that. I'm just saying in a general sense, you can't even think about food. Yet 5 minutes later, you have chocolate, cake, ice cream, whatever it might be. And they will eat it every time.
Yeah, it's become a little bit like almost it's almost ceremony, or it's almost you're eating on
Right.
autopilot to some degree, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's such an integral part of our, social events, social kind of interaction. And that being said, the social interactions that I had with people as that first year went by was very interesting because everyone was very happy and excited when you have such a drastic change and you look a little bit healthier and all of those types of things. But when you give them the recipe on how you achieved it, oh no, the world's ending. The world's ending. You're going to die. You need to check. You need to go talk to a doctor. Things are going to be terrible. It's you're going to die, or you're going to get a heart attack, whatever the case might be. Everyone had an opinion. If I would have said that I used a different dietary protocol, oh, calories in, calories out, or I was going through with veganism or whatever, I promise no one would ever say a word. But the moment you tell them that you avoid animal products, you avoid carbohydrates, or you're not eating at their dinner party, everyone is offended and everyone is upset. But the health that you obtained because of it was not sufficient to change their minds. Moreover, it's not sufficient to curb their how offended they get. Everyone knows how I eat. Social interactions, I don't go to the dinner party for the food. I go to the dinner party for the people. If you want me to eat it at your dinner party, that's fine. I have no problem to eat, but I will only eat things that align with my dietary protocol. I don't have any interest with eating anything else. And if you don't have those things, well, that's fine because I came to hang out with you guys. I didn't come to eat food. So my social interactions changed drastically to being people centered and not food centered. And again, that was done without planning. That just became the way it was.
Yeah, it's interesting from food centered to people centered. Now, like your average person on your average diet would probably feel like, well, you're losing out on something there, or the social interaction's not that good. But in actual fact, for you, the social interactions improve, right? Because you're actually focused on the people rather than look at this tiramisu or something, you know?
Yeah, no more tiramisu. It's just different. I mean, I don't know if it's better or worse. I think it's just different. Part of that, I also think, is a little bit of age. It's going out. I mean, having fun at at the different stages of your life is just different. When you're a child, going to the playground. When you're an adolescent, maybe making a little bit of trouble here and there. Okay, fine. When you're university and in 20s, maybe going to a bar or to a club. I don't really enjoy bars or clubs. I'm not really interested in not being able to function the next day. So even peers of my age, regardless of the fact that they drink wine or beer or whatever, it doesn't really change the social interaction even at this age, even in the young 30s, because people aren't, at least the friends that I have, that's not really something that we enjoy doing anymore anyway. So I think the recklessness of social interaction has pretty much gone away, and I think that goes away with age for the most part. And so it doesn't really affect that at all. And I don't think you'd be able to do that without alcohol, really. Um, but no, I'm not interested in those things anymore. My health is a number one priority. And I would say that really just enjoying people and the conversations is great, but it's just different than it was when I was 20. So I can't really say that it was inherently better or worse. It's just different.
Nice. Can I ask, what kind of doctor are you?
So I practice orofacial pain. So orofacial pain, it's a specialty for chronic pain in the head, neck, and face. I was originally a dentist. I finished dental school. After dental school, I did a preceptorship at UCLA in oral and maxillofacial surgery, and I got all of my licensing and all of that stuff kind of out of the way. And I did my residency at UCLA in orofacial pain. And at the same time I did my residency, made the very good decision of doing a master's in medical physiology and pathophysiology, which at the time seemed like a great idea, but it was really tough. I mean, to do residency and a separate master's at the same time was really tough. I mean, there was a week that I had there's a year at the end of the first year, there's a year-end exam, and also for my specialty there were board exams, and those two exams fell on the exact same week and you couldn't shift things around. So on Monday, I had I don't remember exactly, but I think it was Monday, it was or no, Wednesday, maybe it was final exam in this master's, like a 1-year review exam. And then that was Wednesday, maybe. And then Friday was my board exam, my written board exam for specialty. So it was crazy. I mean, those were crazy times. So again, yeah, we deal with patients that have chronic head, neck, and face pain, and that can range from anything like musculoskeletal pain, TMJ, things along those lines. It will include things like nerve pains. It will include things like primary headaches. So any primary headaches, that's a big part of our practice. Migraine by far is the biggest driver of patients who have headaches here in our practice. And diet has been a interesting thing to think about when you talk about chronic pain over the long term. And I think a lot of the problem that we're coming to is what you see as a general rule, a problem with nutrition science as a whole. A lot of epidemiology, very difficult to define, endpoints, difficult to have control, and absolutely inappropriate language being used in the literature. I mean, just really inappropriate. I mean, you guys will, those watching, and Dave yourself, I know you probably see Bart K. He's someone who really likes to harp on this point. But the point is, I believe, accurate. You cannot use cause and effect statements when you do not have any type of experiment or evidence that is causal. And this is a big problem because we are taking associative data and applying it as if it was causal. And this is happening in journals all over the world, in associations all over the world. Yet all of the recommendations and all of the general ideas that are brought on about diet have led us to where we currently are. And our society is more sick than it's ever been. And that sickness is reaching countries that it's never reached before. I mean, it's reaching even countries like where you are at in Japan. There are changes in Japan, no?
Oh, definitely. I mean, Japan lags behind Western countries a lot in the in the anti-nutrition stakes, but it's getting up there. Like kids are I've been here 18 years, and just in that time, I've seen a massive change, literally and figuratively, with younger people.
Yeah, it's crazy to think. It's crazy to think that the even approaching majority of people overweight and obese, and younger than 30, younger than 25. I mean, it's crazy, and it's really unbelievable. And I'm not sure what will make it change. I'm not sure success in terms of reduction of childhood obesity and things along those lines. I really don't know. And it's scary because all of the associated, again, association, we're not talking cause, associated diseases when it comes to obesity and when it comes to things like prediabetes or diabetes. I mean, the future does not look nice in terms of the current statistics.
So when you think about just the medical profession as a whole, with your colleagues, with people you went to school with, when you go to conferences, things like that, the difference between association and causation, do you think that's just people are ignoring that they're different things? Is that just willful blindness, or is that just something else?
Oh, I'm really not too sure. When it comes to diet, I think it's a little bit of willful blindness, probably. When you talk about, your specialty specific kind of endeavors, there's always going to be infighting. I mean, this is one thing that I think those that aren't in the medical field don't really have a clear understanding. In each specialty, the deeper that you go, the more fighting there is. I mean, the more argumentation about one idea versus the other. I mean, I had mentioned migraine. Migraine pathophysiology is relatively well understood. There's still a lot of things that are not understood, but as a general rule, people will say, inflammation is a big part of migraine. Okay, well, come an article a couple of years ago which says, is inflammation really part of migraine? And this is written by one of the top guys in migraine in the world. I mean, genius here in UCLA. And when you read his article, he's not saying that it's not, and he's not saying that it is. He's just giving the current arguments and the current data that support or deny the idea of an inflammatory process in migraine. So that was very interesting, but it's completely throwing, kicking your bike down. It's completely throwing you off because you have a simple concept like, yeah, there's an inflammatory process here. And one academic says, you know what, hold on, wait a second. And other academics are saying, no, it is, So there's always this gray area that's moving. And that's very interesting, but at the same time leaves you with a lot of questions. So in terms of specialty specific stuff, I think people are very well focused, and I think they're definitely doing their best. And I think that it's a lot easier to have good controlled data when it comes to working in a lab versus nutrition. Like you probably saw that study that had to do about red meat and diabetes, where they were calling people once every, I don't remember what they said, 2 to 4 years, something crazy like that. And we're saying that red meat, it's a risk factor for diabetes, all of those types of things. This has zero control. This is nice opinion or nice association, but it has absolutely no bearing in scientific evidence and should not be used as such. So in terms of diet, I think there is going back to your question, a little bit maybe of willingness just to kind of let association rule, because people know that from a medical ethical perspective, we are not going to get the control evidence that you want. We can't lock people up for extended periods of time and do whatever we want with them. That's not really how it works. And so they're doing the best with what they have, but that doesn't give you the right to say that association is cause. Just because it's the best with what you have does not allow you to go outside of the scientific rules. Hopefully I answered that question.
Yeah, that's great. Just to pick up on the diabetes study that you just talked about with red meat, when you think about the way they're surveying people like that, they could actually, please correct me if I'm wrong, they could actually survey them with, say, 3 questions. One about, do you consume lots of red meat, say. One, do you eat lots of bread with that red meat, like the buns on the hamburger or whatever? And maybe question number 3, do you wipe your nose 3 times a day?
You can make a great
they could effectively say people that wipe, there's an association between people that wipe their nose 3 times a day and diabetes.
Absolutely. Yeah, of course. Wiping your nose and diabetes association, there might be a strong correlative link there. I don't know. We should do the study, I guess. But it's your question, you're posing, you're showing how absolutely absurd those ideas can be sometimes. I think when you're reading the different articles and different literature, I think it's good to be open-minded. I mean, I don't think you need to necessarily see the title and just absolutely dismiss it. I think it's important to be inquisitive and to kind of be like, well, I never thought about it like that, or let's see what these guys have to say. Let's talk about it through these different ideas here. And I would, and that's kind of the exciting part when you talk about science. The issue is when you run into things that have absolutely no bearing, or things are misappropriately used, or conclusions that are drawn are not acceptable in accordance with the data that they're providing. That's kind of what I don't find to be acceptable. And that definitely does happen. And it's really not something good, I think, for the future.
You've been on Carnivore and had some good results for a long time. Do you feel like this is it for you? Like this is the path as far as nutrition's concerned?
For me, I mean, I would say so. Yeah, I don't have any plans on changing anytime soon. Life is very unusual. I mean, I can't imagine what the next 10 years exactly will look like or where it will change. So I'm open to the fact that things could change. I just have absolutely zero desire or I don't anticipate any changes at all, especially in the short to medium term. Yeah, I don't think so. I think people like my brother who are doing really well on it, I don't think there's going to be a change for him either. And I think that people who are struggling, really, those are the people that are going to benefit from hearing about all the different experiences. And maybe this will help a little bit in terms of change. But for me, myself, I have zero desire, zero medical necessity to make any change. I mean, you know about density, nutrition density in the foods that we're eating. You know that your all of the different blood work that you've done, whether you're deficient or not, and all of the things that you're eating, and whether you're getting enough from it. You have objective data to show that what you're doing isn't causing any problems. And so it's tough to say, subjectively, I will take the opinion of this third person at a dinner party who knows nothing about anything, who's telling me I need to eat kale. For what reason? All of my data is completely perfect. There's no reason. Supplement. I know you get this question all the time, Dave. What do you supplement with? I get that question all the time. What do you supplement with? I don't have any
Nothing.
deficiencies. So why would I
Nothing.
supplement? What do I need to supplement for? I don't have any deficiencies. I don't see a need to supplement. So you have all of the nutrition that you need in a very short menu, and you feel full all of the time. You enjoy every single meal. I was at it's a restaurant bar not too far here from the office, and old school steakhouse, very nice place, very nice people, and they have a very nice 22-ounce bone-in ribeye. And when I go there, I always order two. And it was a super busy night, so they said, "Look, we only have a seat at the bar." So I sat at the bar, and I'm sitting next to two. I had made my order, and two guys walk up and sit next to me. They were actually Japanese, which is pretty funny because I'm talking to you now. So they were Japanese, and they didn't speak much English, but they were talking between them. I'm watching whatever sports is on the TV, and they brought two steaks out, and one of the guys turns to me and says, "Oh, who are you waiting for?" I said, "I'm not waiting for anyone." And you see, "But you're going to eat too?" I said, "Yeah, of course. I'm hungry." So I finished my meal. I was very hungry that day. And he turned to me after I had finished. He said, "You know what? We were enjoying to watch you eat so much because every bite you took, it looked like it was the best bite of your life." And I mean, I guess I appreciate the compliment, but really each meal feels like that. It's just an enjoyable experience to eat, which I did not feel before. And I can't imagine going back and eating the way I did before and feeling the way I did before, especially on a meal to meal basis. I mean, it's like the most exciting time when you're getting to eat each time, but that doesn't really make sense. It probably won't make sense to people, you know?
Yeah, you really got to experience that feeling, right?
Yeah, it's unusual. It's really unusual how satiated you feel, the excitement before a meal. And again, the satiation, not just the long term, but also the enjoyment of the meal that you had. Like you don't feel bloated or anything like that. You just feel good. You feel like you've had enough and you're like, okay, great, on to the next.
It's kind of funny if, when you're a 9 or 10-year-old kid, if your parents had said to you on Christmas Day, the way you're feeling now is how you're going to feel when you're in your 30s eating ground beef or a steak. It'd be pretty.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would just look at them and say, I don't even like steak. 9 or 10-year-old me didn't even like steak. One weird thing I would say, the type of steak that I like changed so much over the year. I was always a medium well guy when I was in my 20s, always. And I'm a medium rare guy now. And that changed over time slowly. Makes zero idea as to why that happened. But yeah, I eat according a lot, really just based on how I feel. So I'll add in seafood sometimes, I'll add in cheese sometimes. What do I have a desire to eat? And I get to eat that thing. It's not like I have a desire, like I have a burning desire to eat something and, oh no, I can't have it. No, I have a desire and I eat it and you feel great. So that's a huge benefit here. I mean, people underestimate that. It's not that you get to reward yourself with eating something that's absolutely terrible for you and not fit for human consumption. No, you get a desire to eat something that you enjoy and that's good for you. And it's like, okay, this is great. So I really don't see anything in the near future stopping me from what I'm currently doing.
What do you think about the next 10 years? Just generally, do you think things are going to improve nutritionally? Do you think there's going to be more of an awakening to how bad processed foods are? What do you think?
I really hope so. I think the average, it might sound a little bit dark. I do not think in an overall sense that the rates of obesity and diabetes are going to change. I don't think they will. I think they'll continue to climb. I do think that dietary protocols like keto and carnivore, mostly keto, I think keto will grow a little bit more. I think carnivore will grow a little bit more. I do think that the awareness of highly processed foods will actually grow significantly, but the issue is that you're still improperly feeding your body, despite the fact that you want them to be whole foods. You know, your overconsumption, and even if you make a significant reduction, like you've gone from, you're eating 80% less of things like chocolate cake or highly processed foods. That 20% is, especially for a very specific percentage of people, is really detrimental. You yourself, as you've described on your channel, and many other people who talked about specific autoimmune conditions and things like that, no matter what you did, it's just impossible to look at the food, even if it's from a whole food source, and to think that that might be a causal agent or a reactionary agent for you. It's really tough to get to that mind space, to get to that headspace. And it took me a really long time to even consider these ideas, and to think that there are specific foods which I think are more beneficial than others. It's just not something I ever thought about. So in an overarching sense, I don't think the obesity rates and diabetes rates are going to get any better in the next 10 years. I think they're going to continue to get worse. I think there will be a small subset of the population that is open-minded, and that might see videos like the ones that you're publishing and say, you know what, this kind of makes a little bit of sense. Let me investigate a little bit further. And maybe they'll make some positive changes, and maybe they will decrease a lot of the processed stuff. Or, someone will see all of the processed meats, like the meat replacements, like all of the vegan burgers and all of this stuff. And maybe a few people will say, listen, why would I intake something that's just been grown in a lab, full of seed oils, dyes, et cetera, when I can have a whole food product? Of course, not all beef is the same. Grass finished, grain fed. You can get into all these little details, but the general concept is the same here. You do not need these artificial sweeteners and all of these sodas and things along those lines. These are not, in my opinion, not fit for human consumption, much less acceptable for children. To give children Coca-Cola, it's absolutely insane. I don't find this to be an acceptable practice. And I've mentioned it even to a couple of my patients. I had a patient who she was being seen for migraines, and she's tried every treatment under the book. And we were finding out some creative new ways to maybe think about some different treatments, and diet kind of came up a little bit, but I try not to cross too many lines, and I stick to the dietary approaches clinically that have been shown to have relationships when it comes to the things that I'm treating. So like with migraine, things like red wine, chocolate, even dark chocolate, there's specific nutritional triggers for some patients. And she said, what do you think about diet soda? And I didn't even think, it just came out of my mouth. I said, oh, this is not fit for human consumption. And she said, wow, no one's ever told me that. And I said, listen, you've been drinking diet soda for an extended period of time, 30 years, 2 or 3 times a day. I have zero expectation that one day to the next you will cut it to 0. So instead of 2 or 3, why not maybe go to 1 or 2? Let's make a 30% reduction. And she comes back 3 weeks later, and her headache intensity, frequency, duration, and episodes decreased by 50%. And so I said, wow, this medication is probably really working. I felt kind of like a genius. This one medication that's never really used for this one thing, like it worked. Okay, I walk into the room, Mrs. Jones, tell me. So how did the medication work? Oh, I didn't take it. Okay, but you told me you're telling me, okay, what's going on? She said, I completely stopped drinking diet soda. And she says, I think it's the aspartame. And I said, and what else happened? She said, in these 3 weeks, I was pretty much reading everything that I was eating, and I can't believe how much artificial stuff is in it. She told me about some whipped cream that she had that had a bunch of sucralose in it, and that was like this and like that. I said, so look, your body's telling you that this artificial stuff is not for you. setting off your migraines. So why not to reduce them? They don't jive with you. Does that mean that everyone has to stop with those things? I can't say that. Ethically, I can't say that. If you're asking me personally, do I think it's a good thing to avoid the processed stuff? The answer is yes. So it works for some of my patients, like that one in that case. But as an overarching concept, some people are waking up to how bad these processed things are for us. And I think all nutritional people in the nutrition space, I think if they're being honest with you, and they don't have an agenda, I think they would tell you that whole foods, less processed, is probably better over the long term.
Wow, that's a powerful story about the lady with the migraines, definitely.
Crazy. I mean, really exceptional.
I think her situation kind of highlights part of the problem, in that, like, this thing made her start paying attention to what's actually in the drinks or the foods, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think all of us just kind of accept that, well, if it's been approved and companies are producing it, then it can't be that bad, can it?
Yeah, it's not being pointed out. No one's talking about it. It's not getting, the spotlight that I think it really does deserve. And we're taking it as if it's normal. It's normal. Oh, you're on an SSRI. It's normal. Oh, you're on TCA. Oh, it's normal. Oh, you're on anxiolytic medication. It's normal. You're completely out of control metabolically. Well, that's normal. That's like how it goes. No, that's not how it goes. This is not acceptable approach for human longevity and as a lifespan, what will happen over the lifespan. This is not acceptable to just sit back and to say that, well, it's normal. I don't believe that it is. I don't believe that you must be confined to your bed at the age of 70. I don't agree with this opinion. I reject it completely. We need to do what we can do. Things happen, accidents happen. The world it's not all sunshines and rainbows. But we're talking about non-communicable diseases. We're talking about preventative diseases. We're not talking about unusual virus or unusual car accident. We're talking about things that you don't have to have happen to you. And most people will agree, although that's actually not true. There's a lot of people that are saying that no matter what you do, just only based off your genetics, you will definitely have diabetes. You will definitely have hypertension. There are people that are saying that, which is, it's really unusual. But for today's climate, I guess that's okay. And but in my opinion, these are preventable diseases for the overwhelming majority of people, and they should be viewed as such. And finding alternative routes that are not dependent on pharmacological agents, that are not dependent on medical society, I think are very important. And there's nothing wrong with not wanting to be a part of the medication, pharmacological, and doctor system to manage your weight. I think that's okay. I think that's good. I think it's healthy. I think you need to find that balance, and that balance has nothing to do about the amount of ratios in your calorie in, calorie out. That balance that I'm talking about is about you living life to the fullest without the need to be dependent on any provider of any specialty in any hospital.
Eric, if people want to reach out, do you have any way of getting in contact, social media or a website or anything like that?
Yeah, so I did start a carnivore based Instagram called Carnivore Stories. I haven't really been active on it. If people want to reach out here to the clinic, they can always reach out. Our email here is info@southbaytmj.com. And that's just to get in touch here to the clinic. If you want to get in touch regarding carnivore and talking about those things or posting things like that, I think the Instagram Carnivore Stories is great. Or also at my email. I know you and I had sent a few emails back and forth. It's Dr. Eric J. Grin at gmail.com. And people are always welcome to shoot me an email as well.
Thank you very much for coming on and sharing both your journey and your expertise with us. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dave, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk, and love watching your videos. I'll keep watching them. It's been a great pleasure.